Hello, welcome to Adagio Live and to our workshops on the Bach Cello Suites. Today, the Bourre from the suite number 3 in C major. I am back home, as you can see, after 2 wonderful weeks in south of France. First, I was at our festival in my hometown, Forcalquier. In the last 2 episodes, I gave you the address of the website and everything, and then after that I went to another wonderful festival not far from there in Salon. It's also a chamber music festival, also run by friends. So in the case of my festival or our festival in Forcalquier, it's really a sort of, it started as a family story. And in Salon, it's really friends. 3 friends are artistic directors. Éric Lesage, Emmanuel Pahu and Paul Meyer. 3 amazing artists that you certainly all know. And so I was there for 3 days, and again it was so wonderful to share music with people who have this same urgency who burn for the music, as well the musicians as the audience, and particularly, of course, in these times. So it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Salon. And actually, my guest today is the president of this festival, Émilie Delorme. It's one of her many activities. And I think it comes, she will tell us later, but it comes from a very long friendship with these wonderful musicians. But she's also the director, the chairman, and I'm not sure how to say, of the Conservatoire in Paris, of the Conservatoire Supérieur in Paris. She was for a very long time in charge of the academy in Aix-en-Provence, of the great festival of Aix-en-Provence. So many activities where she had a chance to be extremely creative, and I will certainly ask her about this later in our talk. Before that, the Bourre from the 3rd suite, but before that, a little follow-up, because usually I like to answer questions as they arrive, but this time we had a little technical problem of somebody who sent a message about the courante of the 3rd suite, and she sent this question before my workshop on the courante, but I received this message only 2 days ago. It's because the person to whom she sent the question at Adagio went on vacation. That can happen in the middle of the summer, and so I will quickly do a short follow-up. The question by Zoe Kettiger. Hello, I write you from Geneva. I'm following the workshops on the Bach Suites. Thank you very much, Zoe. Very happy. Very interesting and constructive. I learned a lot. Thank you again. And I have a question concerning the courante, about which you will talk tomorrow. So she sent it the day before. How do you choose the articulation, and how do you deal with it, with the articulation of the bow in the 8th notes, in the détaché 8th notes? If you have time to explain and give some indications about this, about the bow technique, and about the phrasing, it would be a help. So I think, Zoe, you might have heard that I did anyway. This is something that the phrasing, about the phrasing of the bow arm and the articulation, something that I have talked about anyway in general. There is one thing I would add about this courant that you were asking about. I will give you, because I'm not sure, I hope I don't repeat myself, I'm not sure I mentioned it in the workshop on the Courante, that Anna Belsma was actually quite strict about the bow anyway, in all the Bach suites, never leaving the string. And I think the reason he said that, he really didn't like what can happen too often, a sort of spiccato bowing, which is a later bowing, which is historically not correct and also musically not very helpful. It's this kind of spiccato, of modern spiccato, I will call it like this now, is really a sort of late 19th century, 20th century bowing. And so Anna, to get rid of this, he said, we in the Bach suites in general, you never leave the string. So, but I don't think he meant with this that you have to really that to play flat. Certainly not. You ought to put in some verticality, but you can do this and the bow still doesn't leave. I don't know. Maybe I could go even closer. I can see now, as I'm doing this for you, that the hair is never leaving the string when I do this kind of bowing. And my recommendation, and then we will move on to the bourre, is that I would put a little bit of this. There is a nice word in German, by the way, for this. It's called Federn, and I like it very much. The Germans have this very practical way to take a substantive, Feder, which is the feather, and to make a verb out of it, Federn. So to do like a feather, you know, who has this shape and who would rebound on the string like this, but so you hear there is a little bit of articulation, and this Federn I would use when you are doing arpeggio, basically, when the notes are not next to each other, and then when they are when you have not conjoint, we say in French, notes that are next to each other, I would really well, here we do a slur, but there are some other places in the Courante where you have notes that are really détaché in the sense of a horizontal stroke. I hope this helps. Now let's move on to our bourre, but I thought I would do this follow-up because anyway the bourres are not so complicated movements as that we need to spend so much time on them. They are much less substantial than the Allemande, the Sarabandes, the Preludes, so, but they are a lot of fun, and particularly these bourres from the third suite, which, by the way, are the very first movement of any suite of the Bach suite that I learned as a kid. I was, I think, 10 years old, and it was included, I remember that, in a method for learning the cello. I think it's in the Feuillard method, which many of you know around the world. And so these were my first Bach notes. So very simple, very joyful, rhythmical music. And Bach does, he uses, its purpose is to be simple, accessible, and so he uses this, of course, the rhythmical dancing flow of the bourre, meaning 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. the 3 being the first beat of the second bar. So that was 2 times, and of course the third time he will do the double length, and he does it by doing this descending line. Well, my singing was not so convincing now, but so in order to get us out of the 2-bar system, he starts a solo of the bass which goes really very linear. 2 So a very simple mean. And then what he does in the second half is that he again does the 2 bars, 2 bars, 4 bars. That was 2 bars. 2 bars. And then this time he will do 4 bars. But because it's Bach, he will not do it the same way he did the first time. This time, on the contrary, the bass line will stay stuck for a very short moment, but on a pedal note. And then cadenza in A. So I think it's so simple but wonderful. How lucky we are. So now what he does after this, first again 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars. Now he will finish by doing 8 bars. And whoops, are we still there? Excuse me, I received a call on my phone. I will make sure this doesn't happen again. No, it's not. Okay. I hope Eric can confirm me that we are all good, that we are online. Yes, I hope so. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. So, now to finish 8 bars. And he does it by again doing a pedal, but this time a much longer. Basically a combination of the 2 tricks that he used before in the first and the second part. So he starts with the pedal trick, but for a full 4 bars. So all of this was playing around on the bass doesn't move. It's just a sort of rhythmical, dancing, like making galipette. And then comes our descending bass line. So very simple, but nevertheless so genius. Now I in the title of this episode I was talking about the 2 phases of a same dance. So as we know, in this galanterie, we have the Bourre 1, the Bourre 2, and we know that Bach is working on oppositions, and of course oppositions of the same dance, which makes it very, very interesting. So what he does here is that, of course, we are going to be in C minor instead of C major, but also he will use exactly the same construction that we just went through in the first Bourre. That means we have a first part which is 2 bars, 2 bars, 4 bars. And we have a second part which is 2 bars, 2 bars, 4 bars. And then we have these 8 conclusive bars. Now, what's fantastic is that is the way that it's the same construction, but you will see how the material is radically different, and the means to make the construction are also very, very different. First of all, You remember that in the first Bourre we jump from one voice to the other in order to give dynamic and energy. One could say maybe middle voice, bass, soprano, all of three. Yeah, and with this, so we have a very lively mood. In the second Bourre, we are going to be very linear, no jumps. So a lot of scale. So yes, scales, but nevertheless, it's more subtle. It's less dancing. So we get less the need to get off our chair and start dancing. But nevertheless, it's the same. That was 2 bars. And now we have 4 bars. And this way we have, even if it's intuitive, this very clear relationship with what we just heard, with the part 1, with the Bourre 1. But what a different world. Second part, cadenza to B flat major, modulation towards G minor, so 2 bars, 2 bars, and then 4 bars. And we had our little G minor episode. And now, the way he does the last 8 bars is one of these fantastic Bach moments where he gets very ambiguous, actually. It's one of these passages, you know, I already confessed to you that I sometimes struggle to find what the bass line could be, because the writing gets, do I dare to say, sneaky? So this time he also gets this longer phrase, but by being at the beginning of this segment of 8 bars, by being actually quite enigmatic. Here. So I will show you on the piano what I think could be a harmonization, the way I feel it is that, but I'm pretty sure that there could be other solutions as well. I imagine here a diminished chord for 1.5 bar, and so we enter a sort of hemiolic time frame, because we are not anymore going to change on the bar lines, but every 3 half bars. And I think we have one more diminished chord here. And then we are again arrived in our C minor, and it's more normal. But by creating in a bourre, in a very simple dance in a way, a sort of destructuring of the rhythm, a sort of 3-beat pattern in this very binary type of piece, he creates, and that's what makes this music so magic, that even in a simple, short, seemingly unambitious piece, he creates something a little bit, he raises questions, he he makes us curious about what's actually happening there, and puts it almost into for a moment, into a philosophical quality. I must say that this Bourre, I mentioned to you that this galanterie, the minuets, the bourrées, and later the gavotte, are the movement which the choreographer Anne-Theresa de Keersmaker, with whom I was doing this project Mitten. In these, which is Mitten is a choreography of all 6 suites, and in the galanteries, she would ask her dancer to actually really dance very rhythmically and almost walk the bass line in a very simple way, in a very unornamented way, and because of this, I would relate particularly strongly with the dancer in this moment, and so they would be very and then when I would go to the minor, I would see how they would suddenly their whole body, their whole attitude would change so much, and they would start moving the feet very carefully in a way, and so for me it was a wonderful and very helpful experience to have this exchange with them, particularly on these dances, and which is in a way an answer to Nirina's question that she sent me at the beginning of this workshop, where she said, how did working with Anne-Theresa de Keersmaker, how did this project Mitten influence your playing? And definitely I would say on these dances I got very influenced by this experience. So now it's the time for our guest, and before we go to this meeting Émilie, I want to encourage you to continue sending me questions or ideas, inputs, and I look forward to that. It's always very, it feeds my my imagination and my questioning around these masterworks. Émilie, I see you. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time, Émilie. You, at the contrary to me, you stayed in Salon. We actually were together last night in Salon after the concert. We had a nice drinks with all the musicians together and everybody. And so today I did my travel back to Freiburg because I have to go on to North Germany in a few days. So, Émilie, first I would like to say to our viewers, we have known each other for many years because probably, Émilie, am I right that it is through the Salon Festival that we met?
I think so, the first time, yes.
Yeah, I met because I came there for the first time probably more than 25 years ago, and that's where we met. But then we had other opportunities to work together. You gave me a really an amazing opportunity to come twice as artist in residence to your academy in Aix-en-Provence, where we were working with string quartets there, and while also playing and presenting some programs. And I remember being so impressed by what you did with the Orchestre des Jeunes de la Méditerranée. I think that's something that you constructed really with your soul and giving so much of your energy, your passion. And I remember that you would travel to all around the Mediterranean country, to each country, to recruit young people who would come also from countries where it was very critical situations, and I remember the atmosphere there of these young people coming from Syria, Algeria, Israel, but also Lebanon. So I'm sure you were. Well, no, I'm not. I'm sure we talked about it. You were very shocked by what happened in Beirut a few days ago. But you told me that at least your direct friends are okay. So we all pray that this wonderful, this amazing country will recover as soon as possible. So, but anything you want to say about?
Yes, I remember when you came in next that you make a buff with a young musician of the Mediterranean Youth Orchestra. It's among one of the best memories we have, and they're still speaking about it. It was so generous to join them on stage and to improvise with them.
Yeah,
that was a hit.
I remember that. That was
and I think you experienced for first time electronic cello.
That's right. That was my first time playing an electronic cello and trying to improvise. On some music from probably Syria, Tunisia, something. Yeah. That was quite. I don't think the result was very convincing, to be honest. But I enjoyed it very much, and we had.
And they did.
And they did. Yes. Well, I will ask you about your current activity at the Conservatoire in Paris, everything later on. But maybe now the question that I ask each of our guests. The Bach Cello Suites. When did you encounter them? Do you have a special memory in your youth or something when you heard them for the first time, or do you remember some concert, or what are they for you?
I don't remember the first time I heard them, but I remember the first time I played them because I was studying the violin for many years, and when I was 18, I started to perform the viola. And I had a fantastic viola teacher, and the first thing he put on the stand was the cello suites, and he taught me how to love them and to search in them, and it was like a daily routine. For him, it was everything. So every single class was starting with one piece of the Bach suites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and that's something it's so wonderful that these pieces are being played on the viola and I'm sure many of our friends musicians out there they have heard before an orchestra concert a tuba player playing the suites, and
accordion, guitar,
and they are still wonderful works. Yeah,
but the viola is the best instruments because you can play both the cello suite and the violin sonatas and partitas. So how can you imagine to have both?
You get it both ends. Fantastic. Yes. And anyways, now we know that most probably they were composed for the Das Pala, for this big viola, on this shoulder cello.
My teacher built a viola pomposa because he said he thought it was for not viola spalla but viola pomposa. So he had one, and we tried all of the students to play it, but it was so hard with its 5 strings and so huge and so heavy. To find the right sounds was quite challenging. I couldn't play it, but he did very well.
I can imagine. Yes. And yes, and I mean, you now your current mission, I would say, since 2 years now is you are director of the Conservatoire in Paris.
In 6 months.
It's 6 months. Oh my God!
I just started in January.
Wow! What conditions to start for you this in the current times? That must be really, really challenging, I imagine.
It was challenging, but it was also a good way to know all the team and all the process in the institutions, because we need to reinvent everything. So I had to go very quickly to know everyone and to understand how this fantastic house is working.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I would love to, because there are quite a few young cellists who follow this workshop. And what would be I mean, I'm sure you have had so much thinking about this, about the young people that are in your conservatoire. What's going to happen to them now? Those who are about finishing their master, or those who start, and what first of all, question one: what do you think the world of tomorrow, the musical world of tomorrow, might be made of? I know that none of us has a crystal ball, but and is there some kind of advice or something you can give to young musicians as a help on their way to the professional music world?
I think we can spend hours about speaking about what will be the music world, but most interesting thing is to ask ourselves which one we would like to have, and then to make everything to build it. And I really think that young musicians still have a very good very good chance to build something new. So I think instead of asking what will happen, it's much worth to ask what we would like to do and then to act for it.
Mm-hmm. So you are almost rephrasing Kennedy. You know, the don't ask what America can do for you, ask what you can do for America. So no, but yeah. I mean, I will just give an example of one conversation we had with my colleague in Freiburg, who is teaching here, Elena Chea, a wonderful teacher here at the Musikhochschule in Freiburg. And we had a seminar with her students and everything. And she basically asked me this question. And about what can you tell to young musicians? And first of all, I told her I thought most probably, and this is in a way what you said, the young people, they will invent the world of tomorrow, and it's not only certainly not an old guy like me who can tell them what to do. But if maybe I would encourage them to not for those who still have a little bit the taboo that if we are musician, we have to be 100% only musician. And I have the feeling that maybe we have to accept, and not only accept, but it might be an opportunity to enrich ourselves, to imagine that in the coming years, there might be moments that in order to pay the rent, we might have to not only play the cello or not only do this, but also in parallel do other things. What are my other passions? And that this is not something that has to negatively affect my artistic life and my artistic abilities. But I don't know if it's something that you agree with.
I think what I would hope is that they will be happy in their life, and to be happy, I think they have to be first a good musicians, but then to know what's the point, what they want to do with that, what they want to express, how they want to live. Maybe it's sometimes quite a romantic image to say you can open your restaurant and cook for your friends and then going back to your cello. I mean, most of the young players will have some tough year now to find their way. So it's maybe not easy to jungle with a few jobs, but just for the beginning to know why they are playing. And I think the period we just went through was very important for everyone to question his own desire and to know why you are playing, what you want to bring, what you want to do, and then to feel free to do it. I mean, what I love when we speak together or where we invent projects together is that you seem free in your mind to go in every single way. You want to make a project with dance, you say, okay, I would like to do something with dance, let's go. You want to improvise, you want to do some string quartet teaching, playing, everything seems possible. And I think to give the young musicians the right to allow themselves to think that everything is possible, and then trying to help them to reach that, I think it's the best gift we can give them, this freedom to think what they dream and to try to go to these directions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just a parenthesis, which is not very not connected to the subject we just spoke about, but because you mentioned the project with dance and things like this, I forgot to say, and when I presented you, when I introduced you to our viewers, Émilie, that it's actually thanks to you that I met Anne-Theresa de Kersmaker, who played such an important role in my life with this project, Mitten, because the whole idea started I remember at the end of my first residency in your academy, and you said, what do you want to do in 2 years? And we talked, and I said, oh, I would love to do something with dance. And then thanks to you and Bernard Focroul, I got in touch with Anne-Theresa de Kersmaker. So thank you so much for this. Yes.
So that's to keep to young players. Believe to your dreams. Sometimes it will not happen, but sometimes it may happen. And if you express them, you have more chance to reach them than if you don't express them.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. I think it's so wonderful that you, being at the head of an institution like the Conservatoire in Paris, that you have this absolutely deep, anchored faith in the capacity of the young players, of the young musicians to create what's going to be tomorrow's music world. So it's wonderful. Émilie, thank you so much for taking the time. That was great. Anything you want to give us on our way on this journey around the Bach Suites or whatever in the music world before I leave to the last concert of the festival in Salon?
No, I was really grateful, and I heard what you said on the street. I would love to have you as a teacher when I was younger. So I will encourage everyone to listen to it, because I think working on this Bach Suite is a lifetime search, and I think it's very nice that you can share where you are in it now. So thank you.
Thank you, Émilie. Thank you for your words. And yes, we keep searching for sure. Thanks, everybody. See you next week, same time, same place, Friday, 7 o'clock. And we will talk next time about the gig. We will finish. After the episode of next week, we will have reached the middle of our journey, because we will finish the third suite. And then we will go on to the second half of our journey. So, thanks everybody. See you next Friday. Merci beaucoup, Émilie. Au revoir.